Thanks. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for this session on the hows and whys of business cards in the job search. My name's Jodi Hammer, and I'm the Career Services Specialist with NPCA's Global Reentry Program. Happy to be with you here to talk a little bit about the concept of business cards and how it can be helpful in your job search. So let's go ahead and dive in, and we'll go from there. So my first question is, do you need them? Business cards. So do you really need them? And why or why not do you think? And so if anyone, is willing to maybe share why they think they're important or not, you certainly can. We're going to talk about kind of the pros of business cards in many ways as well. So let's start ahead with that. In terms of business cards, there's a lot of reasons why you might use them, but traditional business cards, when people think of business cards, they think of, oh, that's the one that my company provides me when I have a job, right? So you don't always associate business cards with the job seeker, right? The job seeker's trying to get a job so they can have the business cards, is what many think, right? And then they're issued those, by the company. The company creates, the logo, the format, all of that, right? It's just, and it's usually then given to you if you have the kind of job that is maybe a networking job where you'd need to give them out. And you can, of course, certainly create your own too for a business, when you have a job as well. But people tend to think of business cards as being more, less associated with the job search and more associated with when you already have a job. They're like, well, I can't have a business card. I don't have a job. My job is finding a job right now. And so we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to talk about a different kind of card. Maybe you don't call it a business card. Maybe instead, there's a lot of different terms that are used. Networking cards is one. That's a good one. Contact cards, business cards for the unemployed, career focused cards, and personal calling cards. All of these are kind of alternative terms for the traditional business card that we've just talked about. And you obviously have a lot of, you create these from scratch or using templates. There's thousands of templates that are out there that you can actually use to help you create your business cards. But you really are more in the driver's seat when you're doing, the networking cards and such. So we're going to talk about some of the tips and what should be included, and a little bit about what shouldn't be included, maybe, and just some general tips to make it most productive for you, because they are really important for a variety of reasons, which we're going to see. So why have contact cards? You're doing a job search, you don't have an employer, but why should you bother having contact cards? There's a lot of different reasons, actually. Number one, it's just a more professional appearance, right? When you are, giving your business, people are like, oh yes, let's touch base. It's really nice if you can just hand them a card that has your, phone number, your email, all of that, so that they can connect with you, and much easier, right? Than one of the items that I have on this list is, that whole, network, that napkin, with your contact information. What I mean by that is, let's, imagine you're at some networking event or just some holiday event or some event in general, and you meet somebody and you'd like to keep in touch. If you have a contact card, you could pull that out and give that to them. But if you don't, I mean, people scramble for, oh, what can I write on? Oh, here's the napkin from this event. Let me scratch my, my name and my phone number on it. A, that's not as professional. B, I can almost guarantee you that's going to get lost a lot more than a business card, which, because of its size, it fits within, whether it's wallets or wherever. And so it kind of gets somewhere where it will come to the surface in the future, maybe. Whereas the cocktail napkin, is just not gonna probably be as impressive or, last as long. So, it's also great, when you go to, if it's career fairs or any kind of events, right? Just having those available, right? Versus your resume, maybe, now your resume, you should always obviously have, if you're going to a career fair, a physical career fair, to bring it. But if your contact card, which has, obviously the minimum information that it should have at least, and then it might have a little additional information that is even a little bit more like as some people call it, a mini resume card, but it's not, you're not supposed to, you don't want to have it be really, you know, lots of text. You want to keep it as minimalistic as you can, just to, make the reading of it very easy and crisp and, just super, super easy. But you might even have some information on the back. You might use the back to put some information, more information about maybe some of your key skills that, if you're going for one particular area or something like that. I like to keep the back very minimal, only just in general, just to have some room for them to write. Because a lot of times I know what I've done in the past with, when I get business cards, I find it's most effective to write on the back where I met them, the date, and whatever, if it was some holiday party or something, so that I know that context. Because a business card without any notes on it on the back or cues on where you met this person becomes hard to remember. It's like you see it in a couple months and you're like, gosh, where did I meet this person? What were we, why did I get this card? It's hard to remember. So cards, and writing on the back can really be just a little tip that I give to people to help you remember who it was and maybe what you talked about, or what you were going to follow up on, especially when you're maybe getting a lot of cards at once, right? Maybe in that event, you end up leaving with 10 business cards. Well, it's hard to remember everything and who was who, and especially for job fairs, right? It can be very hard. What kinds of jobs? So write those notes. Sometimes even little notes on the resume. I'm sorry, on the contact card, and then maybe longer notes in your binder. Your portfolio or whatnot. So yeah. So I mean it and it can also, what's great about it, another one, the reciprocal effect. By that, what I mean is when you are meeting someone and you're, the end, it's like, oh, so nice to meet you. And you get out your card. It's kind of an unspoken rule that if they have a card, they should reciprocate and, get theirs out and give it to you. It's kind of a nice, nonverbal even, you could say, do you by chance have a card? And you could say that too, but, they might even bring it out without that because of that whole, you're offering yours and that kind of thing. Contact cards also really are helpful for you to be able to market yourself as you wish. And that's, you might put a title, like if you're, if you're not working for a company, right? And you're just, you're trying to come up with what would you put instead of a title, it might be, international development professional, or, it could be, a bilingual, whatever. It could be like a tagline kind of, as well underneath there. So, with, to show them, to remind them kind of, who you are a little bit, right? That can be helpful. And of course, I realize that many people are looking for different kinds of, there's different types of jobs at the same time. So you may not want to make that overly detailed, or maybe have some different cards. Of course, you could do that, but even just having, or a few different, skill sets. Maybe you're, international development, professional, bilingual, project manager or something, whatever. You could have that on there too. So you can definitely add that kind of information. Another nice thing about contact cards is it allows you to kind of market yourself, in and show your personal style, right? So you can be pretty creative. I mean, if you look online, there are so many templates that you can access, many of which are free. If you do, the Google search and you search for free business cards, you're going to come up with a lot that come up as free. Now, it is free oftentimes, and you have to read the fine print. You usually pay for shipping, right? And you're going to pay for, maybe there's, if you want something on the back or extra content out of the norm, it's going to be an additional charge. But tap into those to check it out, because I know, I've used Vistaprint several times in the past, and I've been very pleased with, their service and their products and that, and they typically have the free business cards, and then you just pay for the shipping. Now, where they get you, if you want the expedited shipping, and a lot of times people are thinking about this like right before they have a, some career fair coming up, and they're like, I've got to get this now. So then they're like, I need the 3-day or the 2-day or whatever. Well, yeah, that's going to cost you maybe $30 or, $25. So it's that's, you need to factor in there as well. So make sure, from my experience, I've always chosen the slowest processing, and I've still gotten it pretty timely. So that's another reason, why. So if you do have any questions about anything that I've said so far, or any questions about contact cards, business cards in general, go ahead and drop those in the chat box, and I'll take as many as I can of those as well. So let's go ahead and move forward here. Talking a little bit about how to design your business cards, right? So let's talk about the layout. And as you can probably see in the graphic that I've included here, there are some very colorful and very unique and very different styles of these. So there's almost something for everyone, right? Many times people will, recommend in general that you go, somewhat not overly flashy or overly, over the top, unless maybe you're a, graphics or, a design person, and then you might design your own and then just use that. You can upload that as an option always. But you might then use one of the more creative ones, and I have some of those, that are showing here and later as well that you'll see. But it really depends somewhat on your industry and like the sector and the kind of job that you're going for. Like I said, if you are someone who's going for a graphics or social media type of job, you can be a little more wow, right? You want to be that person that can be a little different from the masses, right? So yeah, but there's plenty that will actually avoid you from having the very boring one that just has nothing really on it, and yet not be overly too creative maybe, right? So stick to those more simple layouts. You can use, as I mentioned before, the back for additional information, or leave it blank. Sometimes people will have like a blank color. You see a lot of maybe on the back, it's plain black. I would actually, I would caution against that, only because it takes away from the space where you can write, who they are and where you met them when it's black. But if it's a lighter color or white, you can clearly get that on there. So, just things to factor in, as you figure out what's right for you. Okay. So let's talk here on your own contact card. This is a very basic one that I'm showing you here just as a sample, from online. And, in this case, maybe this person is, they're branding themselves as an entrepreneur, or, whatever that is that you're branding themselves. They have just that on the one side. And that's an option. Yep. And then you can have, on the other side, the contact me, the information, on here, they have the email, they have the website, if you have, your personal website, that kind of thing, you can certainly put that on there, your phone number, right? You notice one of the things that's not on here is address. And that's something that's kind of changed over the years. I think in the past, there's been, if it's your company's card, they generally will have, oftentimes they will have maybe their, address of the department, the division that you work for, right? But I caution against putting your address, only because you usually get a lot of contact cards at once, and who knows where you're going to be living or looking for jobs, right, at any given time. So if by putting where you are, one thing that can do in their mind is just instantly make them think, oh, well, they're in Florida, this is DC, it's a lot different here, I don't know if they'd like it. They could just talk themselves out of you before they even give you a chance, right? So, and don't worry about the phone number being, Florida or wherever else, right? Because honestly, people people don't update their phone numbers. People generally keep their phone numbers, right? So don't worry about that. That's not gonna give you away. So that this is just a very, basic one, right? But the minimum, what you want, obviously your name, and if you have either a title or your kind of your skill set, specialty, like I was saying, right? And then your email and your phone. Now, a lot more people are putting their LinkedIn profile on there, which I think is a great idea. And in doing that, just make sure that you shorten your and you personalize your URL link within LinkedIn, because if you don't, it has all these like random numbers and just parts of your name, and it's just very hard for people to remember. But if you go in and you do the okay, let me personalize this and choose my own URL, Sometimes you might be lucky and even be able to just put in your name, which is great. Oftentimes that will be taken, but you could put in maybe after that some numbers that would, but that are simple, easy for people to remember, right? So think about those kinds of things as well, and when you're putting those, on a contact card. People do typically, check out LinkedIn, and we oftentimes now recommend even putting that on your resume. So if you have it up and running, if and all of that, and it's done in a way where it's going to speak professionally about you, it's, a good idea can be to actually do that. So great. Let's see here. Optional information, right, for the networking cards. Like I said, a tagline of some sort, right? It could be like a short, brief, even sentence, right? You know, um, Expert in da 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 da, whatever, in making your company shine, or whatever it is, like some kind of a tagline that might be catchy. But you can also put, you also do want to put, like I said, the LinkedIn, your Twitter. Some people put Twitter on there. I think between the two, I would say LinkedIn would definitely be the one that I would recommend putting on there. And, if you have space and you want to, and you follow Twitter, you do that, then you could maybe put that on as well. But depends on, how much space you have, right? Your personal website, some people will really develop like a personal website and a personal resume online. So it's easy for people to access that, right? So if you have that and you want to include that, that's fine too. Now photo, that's the next one. This is kind of mixed opinions, right? In your resume, typically you do not include your photo. That's considered, here in the States, I should clarify, it's considered, no, you don't want to do that. They recommend against it unless you are going for a specific career like modeling or something like that, and then there are some exceptions, right? But in general, on your resume, you don't put that. However, on your LinkedIn, they I highly recommend putting a picture on your LinkedIn, because I forget the exact stat. The uh, folks who have it versus don't have it, it increases by having a photo. It apparently increases the open rate exponentially. I mean, it's by a really, large degree. So you don't want to miss out on that, because it's kind of perceived, if you don't have a picture on LinkedIn, it's like, why don't they have a picture? What are they trying to hide? So consider doing that definitely for LinkedIn. And some people, for their business card, they'll put that on there. It certainly helps people put a name with a face, right? Oh yeah, I remember meeting her at the whatever. So it can be helpful, right? You notice the picture that I'm showing here is a sample, right? You have the little professional photo, right? You want to make sure it's a professional kind of photo. That doesn't mean you have to pay a professional to take it. Even cell phones these days, the cameras are very good, and you could take a very good, picture. I would avoid a selfie. Try to have it be someone taking it, for you, or have it not look like a selfie at least. And you see it's very subtle. It's, in a corner, but, and then you have, the person's name. Your name is generally the biggest thing on the card, right? And bolded so that really pops, right? And then underneath on this example, you see web designer and virtual marketing assistant. You have kind of that, that tagline, or her, titles. It doesn't necessarily mean that this was her, specific her actual title in a job, but it's more, this is what she is describing her as, and how she's putting herself forward based on her experience, of course, right? And then you have, her email. And then down on the bottom, notice, like, even again, this is kind of a tagline: organized assistant. And then what's the contact information, and where. I mean, I think this is a nice business card, because it's got plenty of information on it. It's not overly busy. I like the two-tone where it's the white and the blue. So it breaks it into really digestible sections. So I think that's nice as well. Yeah. So, and this one may or may not have something on the back. It may not have anything on the back, and that's fine. So I think that's a good example. But of course, there's, other things you might put on as well. If there's anything else that you have thought of putting on or heard is beneficial, go ahead and drop that in the chat box, and we can, talk about that for a moment. Happy to, address any questions related to this specific slide, and, tips for, networking cards and how to make them. and in addition to other questions about today's session. Okay, great. So where to get business or contact cards? There's a lot of places. I already mentioned, I think, Vistaprint earlier, which has been a really good one, and is inexpensive, quite a bit, I would say, less expensive than a lot of the competition. There are some other ones. If you have ideas on specific, organizations or websites that providers you've heard are good, go ahead and drop them in the chat box there as well, right? Um, and we'll discuss those. I want to talk about Moo as well. That they have really unique cards, very colorful, and I've seen Peace Corps volunteers do some really cool things with those, where they've actually used a picture from their service as the like background, right? And then had like a little, text box somewhere or whatever, had it, where it has kind of the information, or have the picture on the back and your information on the front, which is another way to do it. And the neat thing about Moo, they have a lot of different sizes, but they're kind of known for their untraditional business card sizes. They're not necessarily huge, but they're just like a little taller, a little wider than like your standard. And that's really good in a lot of ways, because if somebody gets like a whole stack of business cards, yours is going to kind of stick out and not fit. The bummer about it is they oftentimes don't fit into little card collector, when you have in your wallet, that's more constrained by the traditional size. So that can be that can be an issue, right? Yeah. So, and then Zazzle's another one. I left another one just open to say, are there other ones that you've heard of, Andrew, or anyone, for other business card providers? I've heard of when I've done some research, Gotprint, I think, is another one. There's so many that are out there, like I said. But if you do a Google search on free business cards, and you could even put reviews to see what people think of them, and see what best free business card providers, get that information, and then go from there. But again, I would draft up something, show it to someone, look at it, really edit it closely, because I tell you, I've had RPCVs who've, they've gotten everything done, and they ordered all their cards, and they ordered like 500 cards or 300 cards or whatever it was, and they got it back, and guess what? There was a spelling error. For example, in one, instead of writing returned Peace Corps volunteer, it said retuned Peace Corps volunteer, which kind of causes a chuckle, but I don't think you want that kind of a grammatical error on yours. So definitely keep a look at it. I'm happy to take a look at it. If you want to show somebody and just get some insight, I'd be happy to take a look at yours quickly as well, if you wanted to shoot me kind of a draft as you're thinking about getting them. But lastly, you can make your own, and I think you can buy, you can buy the actual business card, like stock paper, right? But the only thing I would say is be really careful that it has a really good, like, the perforation, like on some of them, like as you perforate, as you divide them, you kind of see the uneven edge. You want it to be a very crisp edge, just like a regular business card, right? You don't really want it to be known that you made them at home with a kit, right? You want it to be on the same par as anyone who ordered cards, online. Okay, so just watch that. But I have seen some that are, quite good that way too. So, you just you can make that decision. Okay. Great. So a few things as we kind of wrap up here, and then happy to again answer questions if there are any. Cards basically are promoting you. So you are the product. So you want to make sure that you are choosing a card that is going to promote you, your style, your kind of, right, like that goes with your kind of values, right? I see, for example, people who maybe are going for a job that maybe is somehow in the, not necessarily meditation, but in the, maybe it's non-traditional, medicine. Maybe it's, things that have to do with yoga or things like that. They'll use sometimes the lotus, right? Flower, or some, there's some like that. Environmentalists might use, more kind of green hues. Or there might even be some really nice tree backgrounds that they might, use something that kind of reflects you and your values, right? Um, they make you more memorable in general. Cards do, right? And especially if you've really, tailored it well, and just you've done a good job on that, it can really be helpful. And lastly, it really helps facilitate, future connection with you, because if you're somewhere and you're talking to somebody, for you to pull out a resume is kind of awkward, right? Here's a resume of mine, if you can take it. And I can guarantee you, even if they take it, it's not going to be on the road with them. It's not going to be right. It's probably going to get buried in some stack of other papers, right? Whereas the business card or a contact card that you give them is more likely to land, at least, temporarily, in a wallet or somewhere where they're going to be going through and they see it and it's like, oh, right, and they might be reminded of you, which is great. That's part of what you want, right? So those are the real things that I wanted to cover up front, and then of course want to ask if there's any questions that folks have. So I don't see any in the Zoom chat box yet, but if there are, certainly drop them in. And if there aren't, we will wrap it up early, and that's okay too. But know that you can always reach out to me if you need to. And you can reach me at jodi@rpcv.org, and that'll get to me. All right. I don't see anything coming in. So I think what I'll do, and I'm happy to stay online afterwards for a few minutes, if needed, to answer any other questions. But thanks everyone for joining us, and we appreciate it. And you have a great weekend. Bye-bye. All right, Andrew, if you have any questions, let me know. Now or later's fine.
Yeah, no, yeah, thank you. It was very informative. Actually, a lot of the questions that I've had, you answered like right on the slide, so
Oh, good.
it was great.
It's a pretty
And then
basic concept.
yeah, and I typed one in the chat box, I think at the very end, and it was just like, how many cards would you suggest, um, like ordering at once? Like, I'm sure there's like different bundle
Yeah,
sizes, but I'm not sure, because especially if you're like a job seeker,
right.
and you're trying to showcase yourself, I would think you wouldn't want to order too many, because then you might soon be getting a job, but then following that,
Right. I mean, I wouldn't
yeah,
order 1,000, right? But a lot of
right,
times the minimum that they offer is like, I don't know, 100, and I mean, I think close to the minimum is probably just fine for a job seeker. You know what I mean? It depends on how long you plan on using the card. Like, are you constructing it in a way that even when you get a job, it will still
hmm,
be able to be used in, in terms of, you could still use, business cards, and contact cards after you have a job. You certainly use them when you have a job as well. Because it doesn't, I mean, sometimes people will put job seeker or seeking whatever kind of job on their card. But if you don't do that, if you just have more of maybe that sector, or whatever kinds of, program manager and, whatever, leave it more generic, I think, and you're not putting your address on it, I think you're, fine. Even, you could use those for quite some time.
right. And I was thinking too, because I'm not, I'm looking at opportunities in different areas, because I have a diverse professional background. So as far as like,
Right.
I know you had mentioned that one of the things you could include, like instead of a title, maybe specialty skills. So like if I put, offering expertise in this, and
Yeah.
this, that could be appropriate.
Yep. And yeah, exactly. And one of the things I remember when I was, as a trainer and career person, in the past, this has been quite some time, but when I was working as a trainer, um, like a trainer, like putting together trainings for AmeriCorps, their National Civilian Community Corps, like helping them with pre-service training, that kind of thing. I had on the back of my business card, like I had on the front all my contact information, and on the back I had like specialized skills or something like that. And I had, 3 bullets that were, not not long ones, but it was like what you said, expertise in da 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 da. And then another thing, so it kind of just showed my different skill set.
Okay. And then I also wanted to ask, do you think it would be a good idea? Like, I know on the back of the business card, you would want to leave it blank, or you would want to have enough room for people to write down, personal memos from when they were in contact with you. But would it be appropriate to put like a quote, or like uh, or like a banner, or like your professional goal, just as like a it could be like a one liner, but just,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. A grounding quote or something that's part of your vision,
Mhm.
or envisioning a world with da 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 da, like, if that's kind of your own personal, mission statement, whatever. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Hey, I just looked for you just to see what, and it looks like, well, this says Vistaprint free business cards, 500 for 9.99. Promo is better. That might be an alternative. Someone else saying, that you could get them cheaper. I don't know. I just looked. I just did a quick, Google search. But you'll
Okay.
you'll see. I mean, you'll get like, yeah, that's cheap. Like, right? I mean, it's not going to be $1 a card. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be pretty
Right.
inexpensive. And then the shipping on it, choose the slowest, because honestly, it still comes pretty fast. Is what
Okay.
I
Gotcha.
But order
Um,
it before. For example, we're hoping to have a career fair for federal. This is tentative in January. We really want to have one before you
mhm.
guys, before, like, the NCE runs out, whatever. But we're looking at the week right after the inauguration, which is, close to the end of January. But it'd be great. I mean, if you are going to go to that, it'd be great if you have your business cards for that. Oh, actually,
Okay.
sorry, this is all still virtual. My bad. Yikes. I can't wait for the day when we can actually do them in person again.
Yeah,
But
no, yeah, same here. But it works out for me though, because you know,
oh yeah,
I'll still be here in Florida for the time being.
right.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, there are definitely advantages of the virtual one too. So, but yeah, but think about
Right.
those, and then we're going to be able to allow you to go for free to the SID, Society for International Development one, if that's of interest, and that's February 4th.
Okay. Oh, and then I also have another question. You said it may be a good idea to leave your like address um, out of the business card. And I
Yep.
know with resumes, I think it's appropriate to put that. But I mean, would you recommend the same
Even
with resumes as well?
even with resumes these days, a lot of times people don't put their street address. If anything, they might put, Tampa, Florida, or if they're.
Mhm.
But remember, that does kind of not limit you, but it does bring up questions like, oh, he's in Tampa, I don't think he's going to want this job. Well, they don't know, but that's what they assume, right? So
Right.
more and more people are not putting their, like, for example, if somebody is like, I am going to be living in the San Francisco, the Bay Area, like, that's
Mhm.
where I'm targeting my jobs, that's where I'm moving, I'm going there. You could put even on your resume Bay Area, like, that's because that's where you're going to be. So,
Okay.
you know things like that. But you could even just not put it and put your other contact information, and that's fine too these days. Now,
Gotcha.
if you're applying for a job and let's say it's in Tampa and you have the Tampa resume, absolutely drop that in, because that's going to help you if they're looking for someone in Tampa and you are in Tampa already. That makes it so much easier, quicker,
Right.
cheaper, all of that.
Right. Okay. And then I know like some organizations, especially federal organizations, are looking to diversify as far as like bringing candidates from different parts of the country,
Right.
especially like toward the center of the country. And like I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but I know like on my resume currently I have my current location, but um, like I guess it may be a good idea to leave it off just because of that. Yeah, I mean,
To
like
leave
as
off
far
your
as,
resume, I mean,
or
leave
like
off
to,
your address.
yeah, because I mean, I know